When you talk about the biggest storylines in Big Ten recruiting this year, I think you have to start with Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes battling it out with Brady Hoke and the Michigan Wolverines for the conference recruiting crown. Now, the Wolverines got off to a fast start. They jumped out of the gate, picked up a lot of commitments before the season even started. A lot of those guys came from in-state, but they also did dip into the Buckeye State and picked up a few of the top guys in Ohio. They flipped over Kyle Kalis, who was committed to Ohio State, a big get for them. They got Chris Wormley and Tom Strobel, two highly regarded defensive ends, and Joel Bolden, one of the top outside linebackers in the country, all from Ohio. However, Ohio State made the late charge after the hiring of Urban Meyer. Now, he may have ruffled some feathers, too, by flipping over some committed guys. He picked up Tommy Shutt, Armani Reeves, Cameron Williams, and Joey O'Connor, all who were committed to Penn State. Then he flips over Kyle Dodson from Wisconsin and Taylor Decker from Notre Dame, and all of a sudden the Buckeyes vault into the top 5, finished with the 3rd overall class nationally and the #1 class in the Big Ten. The Wolverines finished just behind them at number 4 nationally and number 2 in the Big Ten. Now, there were some other classes that were really good in the Big Ten. You got to look at Michigan State and Wisconsin, the two teams who battled for the conference title on the field, also did very well in recruiting. The Spartans finished 3rd in the conference. They picked up 2 of the top recruits in their home state, including the top overall player in Michigan, wide receiver Aaron Burbridge. They also picked up 4-star linebacker Jamal Lyles from their backyard in Southfield, and they closed strong, picking up 4-star wide receiver Monty Medeiros and 4-star safety Demetrius Cox just before signing day. Now, Wisconsin, rankings-wise, didn't finish near the top of the conference, but that's because the Badgers had a smaller class. If you look at the quality they brought in, though, it was definitely quality over quantity. They picked up the top 2 players in their home state, running back Vontae Jackson and linebacker Vince Beagle, and a big get was quarterback Bart Houston from California, a 4-star guy who many think will be a starter for several years in Madison. Now, as far as surprises, I think you got to look at the Northwestern Wildcats first. They pulled in a great class. The headliner there is linebacker Afadi Odenable from Centerville, Ohio, who was an Under Armour All-American, has 4.4 speed off the edge, and could contribute immediately for Pat Fitzgerald. I also think the Purdue Boilermakers, while the rankings may not necessarily reflect it, have a very underrated class. Watch out for 2 players in that class named Jordan Shine, a safety from Warren Central in Indianapolis, and Jordan Woods, a wide receiver from Ann Arbor Skyline. As far as instant impact, I think you'll see a few guys play right away next year. #1, Noah Spence for Ohio State. He's the highest rated player going to a Big Ten school, a 5-star defensive end who can put some heat on the quarterback, and I think you'll see him playing in pass rush situations. With Michigan State, they graduated several receivers, so that's why it was very important for them to get some talent at the position. Now they have DeAnthony Arnett coming in as a transfer, but look for Aaron Burbridge and Monty Medeiros to play early at wide receiver. We mentioned Afadi Odenable. I think he can play early at Northwestern. We mentioned Jordan Shine at Purdue. I think he can play early because of the opening at safety that the Boilermakers have. And then you got to look at Michigan. Andre Pipkins, a 4-star defensive tackle from Kansas City. The Wolverines graduated Mike Martin and Ryan Van Bergen right on the interior of that line. They don't have a ton of depth coming back, and Pipkins at 6'3", 320 pounds is a guy who I think can play right away in the middle of that defense. And then the last guy I think might be the most likely to have an impact, and that's Greg Garman at Iowa. The Hawkeyes have obviously had some attrition at running back, and Garman has the talent. He's a 4-star. He's recruited by a lot of other schools. Picked the Hawkeyes over Arkansas and Miami of Florida, and I think he could be the key to solving some of the running game issues that the Hawkeyes may run into because of the lack of depth at running back. It was important for them to get a running back, and they got one of the best in the country in Greg Garman.